one thing that I did want to get onto you about was Gen Z and alcohol.
Okay.
Definitely among our generation of men and women, there's been a big movement away from drinking. And now we're starting to see people like Scott Galloway talk about the negative effects of not drinking on their social life. As somebody who's been open about your relationship with alcohol and that being a bit of a rocky path, what's been your journey like since then with drinking and socializing, and what's your take on it for just the broader population?
Yeah, it's I just thought of Scott Galloway as you brought up drinking, and I think it was Dr. Oz who said pretty recently, drinking's okay again. Don't have it for breakfast. That was the kind of the headline that people at the excerpt of don't drink it for breakfast, but alcohol is okay again. You can have a couple drinks. The trade-off of maybe it's slightly damaging to health, but it's promotes kind of socializing, and in an era where people are lonely and don't have friends, maybe you drink a little and it can damage your health, but if it means that you have more likely to get into a relationship or make a friend group, then that's fine. But it's funny. So when I was coming up, like the late 2000s, early 2010s, drinking age, drinking was it was like glorified. That was still kind of the era of like teen comedies, I don't know, like Superbad, or even like the American Pie sequels. Just like drinking was cool, it was fun, it was exciting. Also like Tucker Max, I don't know if you some of your listeners might be familiar with him, but he used to write these crazy books about going out and getting drunk and hooking up, and that was like kind of the fun thing to do. And so I drank a lot. I mean, I was drinking a lot even as a kid. I talk about in Troubled. It was one of the foster homes. I think I was 5 or 6 when I first started drinking, and then just like drinking beers from older foster brothers, and then later, tequila and just whatever we could get our hands on in high school. And then, in the military, it became very easy for me to drink, and there was, I was getting a regular paycheck, and there was no obstacle or barrier to getting alcohol. Either I would have one of my older friends buy it, because I was still kind of 17, 18, 19 years old. And that was also the era kind of right after 9/11. So this was like, 2008, 2009. And a lot of bars, if you showed them your military ID and you were under 21, they would kind of be like, come on in, look the other way. It was actually a great time to be active duty, because I also remember drinking and driving a lot. And a cop would pull me over, and I'd show them my license and my military ID, and they'd be like, "How far do you live from here?" And I'd always be like, "Oh, 5 minutes, I'm right up there." And then they'd just say like, "All right, get right home, like get out of here." And I got out of a lot of tickets and God knows what else just from doing that. And then by the time I was 23, 24, it became a problem, and I was drinking too much. I tell this story in the book of having to go to the ICU for alcohol poisoning, and then checked into rehab. And I was sober for over a year. And then by the time I got to college, I started drinking again and found that I didn't really have the same problem with it. So I think in my case, it was some combination. There was probably some genetic predisposition. My mom was an addict. But also just like the kind of circumstances that I was living in, unwilling to address kind of the emotional difficulties that I had gone through, and just, self-medicating with alcohol. And then I think also there's the part of like drinking is just fun. It is just like exciting to like get drunk and have fun. And when you don't have any limits and you have no awareness of, there are actually responsible ways to drink. It was kind of a cliche, drink responsibly, but there are ways to have fun with alcohol without it overtaking you. But it was also like glamorized in the military itself of, just you go to work and then you clock out and then go to the bar and then drink. And it was just a normalized part of life. But I was a year sober. I remember feeling good about myself. I remember I lost weight. I just like felt healthier. And I get it. Like, I'm not like opposed to sobriety or whatever. You know, I know some people use it as a productivity hack. I'll sometimes do that still too, where I'll take like a month off. You know, I know a lot of people do like dry January. And but you know, but now I'm, you know, you don't drink during the week, but on the weekends I'll drink, and it doesn't seem to bother me or interfere with my life anymore. And this is actually kind of a common thing you see. I think I cite some research in the book too about, you know, there is this belief that you know, once an addict, always an addict. You know, if you ever have difficulty with substances or alcohol, you are an addict for life. You're never recovered. You're always in recovery. But there's a lot of research actually showing that, you know, most addicts recover spontaneously on their own. And then famously, there's a story of American Vietnam vets who were deployed to Vietnam, got addicted to cocaine and heroin and all kinds of drugs. I think it was heroin, actually. And then they come back to the U.S., back to, you know, their life outside of the context of war and boredom and violence and trauma. And then they're back to their regular lives. And then they got off of drugs without any problem. And that is actually more common than people think. And I think in my case, it was some of that, some combination of addressing those internal demons, getting a little bit older, and then also getting out of the situation that I was in. Because I was pretty unhappy the final couple of years that I was enlisted. But then once I started college and recognized what I wanted to do with my life and accepted it, then I just felt a lot better and more sort of in control.
I think with a lot of things, whether it's an addiction or not, if you go for an extended period of time without it, it's going to reset your relationship and what you think you need. Like, I didn't drink for 6 months, and since I started again, I've never got as drunk as I would have done fairly regularly before that period, because it just reset. When I was sober, I would still go to bars though. Like, I would go to the bar and I would just have alcohol-free beer or Diet Coke. Like, it was very important for me that I didn't let it affect my social life negatively. I actually found that I was actually more successful with women not drinking as well, because I think I was actually more confident in a way. And I think I think if you put yourself in the position of a woman in a bar, assuming she's not drunk, like, drunk guys are just gross in general. Like, nobody likes somebody drunk coming up to them like, oh. Like, but if somebody's like comes up confidently and they're sober, it's like, oh, this is like somebody interesting. For you, did you change your social life significantly when you weren't drinking?
Let's see. Yes. I remember, like, prior to so, you know, I went to the ICU, I went to rehab. That was a 6-week inpatient treatment facility. And then when I got out, you know, prior to that, I was going to the bars almost every weekend. And then I would drink by myself at home. You know, I had like a corner table where I'd keep all the empties. And, you know, I think I tell the story in the book of I was in a relationship, but I would just drink with my girlfriend at the time. And then I would just fall asleep and pass out and, you know, not really even interact with her. I think she broke up with me around that time. And she was right to do so. But I stopped doing that. And then, I remember this now. So, you know, I mentioned I lost weight. So I got into a fitness routine. I got myself back into shape. I mean, I was so unhealthy before this. I think I'm 5'10". I was probably like 200 pounds plus at my most unhealthy right before I was in treatment. And then after I left and stopped drinking and started working out, I dropped like 25 pounds immediately, and then just stuck with that. And so that became kind of my new habit or routine or whatever of, you know, replacing boozing and bars with just working out and exercise. I also started focusing much more on like creating a plan for myself to get into college. Because before that I had no plan. I didn't know what I was going to do with my future. And then I found all the sort of spare time I had when I wasn't working, taking night classes at a local community college and studying, and took the SAT and just started to take myself more seriously. I mean, I think like drinking and having fun and stuff, like maybe it can work sort of high school, college years, but by 24, 25 years old, it starts to get kind of pathetic if you're still enjoying. And then definitely by like your late 20s and early 30s, like that's not really, it's a different stage of life to mature out of that. So yeah, it's and now I'm in. So there were two things. So one, when I got to Cambridge, I was shocked at the pub culture of student life. But the way that it wasn't a conscious decision, but it was really helpful for me, was I started rowing for my college, and we had practice. We were rowing, I think 7 days a week. It was 7 days a week. Sundays it was the afternoon session, but each morning we would meet up at, I think 5:30 or 6 a.m. And if you're waking up at 5:30, you can't really drink the night before. Some of the younger guys did. I noticed some of the undergrads would show up to the boathouse and they were definitely hungover or possibly still drunk. But the older students and the postgraduate students, none of us really drank the night before. And so that kind of kept me in a very sort of rigid routine of, not drinking, especially not on during the week. And then I come to New York, and like every social event is centered on alcohol and. So, but I can do that now, like what you just described, of going into a bar and just ordering a Diet Coke or a sparkling water or something, and I don't feel compelled to drink. I don't feel the urge to. And yeah, it's it's very different than kind of 10 or 15 years ago, my relationship with alcohol.
Yeah, I can't imagine anything like that being as socially acceptable. I mean, even among my male friend group, if one of the people in my close friend group doesn't drink, full stop, I like a drink, but I'm okay to go without. Other friend is the same. So there was a period where we'd go to a bar, I wasn't drinking, one of my other friends doesn't drink, and then the other friend would, I'll have a Diet Coke. I'm like, no, one of us has got to have a drink. We can't stand here like three guys not drinking in the bar. We've got to take part in some respect. But
something's changed, definitely.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I just read this article about Gen Z and drinking, and the article was something like Gen Z doesn't want to open a bar tab. That was the headline. And the article was basically like, Gen's like, if they order a drink, they want to pay for it right away. They don't want to open a tab. Like, they don't know how to drink anymore, like this new generation. And I think part of it is like, there's just this turning away from it of, I'd rather just have one drink at a time. If I'm going to drink at all, I don't want to keep it open. I don't want to, it's just less of a bar hopping kind of culture.
It's become expensive as well to have bar tabs, especially, young people living in New York. It's like, $20 for a cocktail. When you've got roommates and stuff, it's like, this doesn't add up, it doesn't align with the rest of the budget that I have to live within. If you're enjoying this podcast, you might like to know that we also have a private members club for like-minded modern gentlemen all over the world. You'll find the link to apply in the description.